You find the courage to speak up. Eventually, your wife and you break up over all this stress. And as you, I think, sagely said, it's not you didn't have any problems in your marriage, but when you add all these other layers of stress to an already stressed marriage, it's going to fracture. It just is. So you lose your wife. You then lose your career. You guys were in the midst of trying to take Father Ted to the stage as a musical, and it was going swimmingly. You actually had some big names signing on. You were doing like rehearsals. You had songs. You had a great ending. And the one thing you thought was that your colleagues would stand by you. And yet?
Yeah. They just one day I came down to London for what I thought was a meeting about the show. And the guy who runs Hat Trick, who produced Father Ted, he told me that they wouldn't do it if I was involved. And they offered me £200,000 to walk away. I remember I argued with him. I said, this is too important for me to stop talking about. I said, young girls are being mutilated and sterilized in gender clinics. And he shouted at me, I don't care, So that's what I was up against. And, I expected at least my co-writers, Neil Hannon, who I've been friends with for most of my life, Arthur Matthews, who I've been friends with for most of my life, to stand up for me and say, no, Graham's not a bigot. Of course women need single-sex spaces. Of course they need fair sports. And I begged them to, but they never did. They just refused point blank. So, And that was kind of the story with all my friends. Not a single one stood by me. I went out to dinner with them and I just asked them to please say something, anything that just makes it sound like I'm not insane. Because one of the problems with this, Megyn, is just people don't believe you. People don't believe it's happening because they can't take on the fact that the entire of society is lying to them. Over here in the UK, the BBC has been lying by omission about this subject for the last 8 years.
Yes.
And the woman, I don't know, I sent you a video of I was ambushed on Newsnight by Sarah Smith, who basically just made it all about the way I conducted myself online. Again, of course I was angry, I was furious all the time because
you're missing the issue.
They're missing the issue. And Sarah Smith is now the head of BBC North America. And I always worry when I see Americans taking on these very, very left-wing attitudes on Palestine and on the trans issue, I do wonder how much of it is because a lot of liberals over there are sort of Anglophiles, which is very nice of them, but they take papers like The Guardian too seriously, channels like the BBC too seriously. And all these institutions have been completely captured. It's like a war has been fought without a bullet fired. And all these lunatics now have their feet under the table and are doing everything they can to continue to confuse the British public about what's going on.
Well, what you said is exactly true. We're talking about rhetorical bullets, and by that we mean truth. Our side let these trans activists take over. They changed laws in the UK and here in the United States. All these blue states in America have a legal mandate to let boys who say they're girls use the girls' bathroom, and in many cases be on the girls' sports team, and in many cases mandate the use of whatever preferred pronoun that kid has. And in New York City, for example, where we used to live, mandates teachers to keep it a secret from the parents if the child says, don't tell my parents. So now you're encouraging grooming behavior, secrets between minors and adults who are supposed to be supervising them during the day, excluding the parent. I mean, it's true insanity. And our side laid down, took a nap, and said, don't pay any attention to this or you're a bigot. And we fired no rhetorical bullets. We kept our mouths shut. If anything, we said, oh, good for you. Okay, good for you. Right? Because in the beginning, some people were lying. Like Malcolm Gladwell recently came out and said he knew it was bullshit and he lied. I think most of us are on the field where I was in the initial days of these things, which was, I don't want to be a bully. And I saw trans people as an extension of LGB. And it was like,
Yes.
okay, you know, this is something they're grappling with, a legit issue. We shouldn't bully them. And it just turned out to be something very, very different than that. And I think now we're seeing what's real. And if you don't have the courage now, I have no time for you. I mean, if you don't speak up now, there's something wrong with you. Okay, which leads me back to your story, Graham. So you don't let up. You've lost your wife. You've lost your colleagues. You lost this play, this musical, which didn't happen, even though you could have really used the money. And you're still going. You're not shutting up. You're like a dog with a bone. And you send out 3 totally benign posts on X. I mean, I read them to the audience when you got arrested, but I'm going to reread them for today's audience. They were all in April 19th. One was, it showed a picture of a trans rights rally with the caption, "A photo you can smell." One was same day, in reply to that picture and follow-up, you wrote, "I hate them, misogynists and homophobes. Fuck them." And then April 20th, the next day, you posted, "If a trans-identified male is in a female-only space, he is committing a violent, abusive act. Make a scene, call the cops, and if all else fails, punch him in the balls." And these are the tweets that led to what happened to you last week. So you were in Arizona. You've been living in Arizona, but you had to go back to the UK because you're in this legal dispute with this trans activist as a male pretending to be a female, who you may not be able to say anything about it, but I can. So this guy got in your face with this video camera at one of these events and seemed to be following you around and seemed to be invading your privacy and your space. And you flicked the phone out of the way and said something to him. And now he's suing you, claiming, oh, you know, he damaged my phone and damaged me and whatever. These trans activists, in my opinion, are absolute fucking lunatics. And the closer they come to you, the more you should run. I don't blame you for not wanting to be within the same arm space as this person, but that'll play out in the UK courts however it plays out. It's really not why you're here. You went over there because you had to in connection with that case. You land at Heathrow. Were you expecting any sort of problem?
Well, when you said hardly got out of the airport, I didn't get out of the plane. You know, the plane landed. Yeah, the plane landed. Well, I got out of the plane. I took a step out of the plane. But the plane landed and, you know, people were told to stay in their seats. And I thought something was up, you know, in terms of, you know, just some normal airport problem. And then they called my name out, you know, and as soon as they called my name out, I sort of started to realize, I sort of knew what was happening, because, you know, it's kind of it's something I expect, to be honest. I expect to be arrested by the police because they follow every single complaint. But here's the thing, I was on my way back for a trial. Now, they must have known that. So they, I think, did it deliberately. And the way it works over here when you're arrested for, you know, free speech tweeting crimes is they just put you in a cell for as long as they can. So I was in a cell for something like 12 hours. And that's the punishment. We have a phrase over here among, you know, GC, gender critical and feminist, in feminist circles. The process is the punishment. And for 8 years, you know, women have been put through this process. Some of them have suffered far more than me. And you know, the British police are just willing participants. I did think it was funny that that the first thing all these Arizonian people saw when the plane landed was a comedy writer being arrested for tweets. It was the most perfect and appropriate welcome to the UK they could have got, really, you know. But yeah, so they brought me out. And they said, we want to speak to you. And I've been met by the police before at airports. I was met by the police in New Zealand, and they were very kind, sweet to me, and they just wanted to know my movements so that they could provide an unmarked car just to keep an eye on things in case trans activists were a problem. But so I didn't immediately think they were going to arrest me. But they did ask me, they said, can we go somewhere private to speak? So we went down this kind of tunnel, and through a doorway, and they stood around me, and he said, "Your passport is on a wanted list or something, or it was flagged up or something, and you're being arrested for, a tweet." He only thought it was one, I think. It was the one about punch him in the balls. And and I went a bit nuts because I just couldn't believe it. They were even going to handcuff me because I was so out of control. And I said, you're not going to put fucking cuffs on me for defending women's rights. And finally, they very kindly, I think, because I don't blame the police for this. The police don't believe any of this. The police, unfortunately, are just, the old phrase, they're just following orders. And they have no idea what's going on. They don't understand this issue. And so they're just doing what they're told. So, I calmed down. I started to get on quite well with the officers. But then I was taken into a van. Because I asked them, please don't march me through the airport. So they brought a van around on the tarmac or whatever you call it, and I went to it, and I thought, oh, at least this is a bit civilized. And then I saw that I was going to be put in a little white kind of corner of the van where you have to sit like this and you can't stretch out your legs, and I just thought, holy shit, they're really going to do this. And then that just began a night of being processed, going into my cell. Luckily, I was exhausted from the flight because I could never sleep on planes. So I slept in the cell, and that killed a few hours. But I genuinely think the reason I was kept was processed as the punishment. They just wanted to make me frightened of tweeting, of speaking my mind, and that's what they've been doing.
Who ordered it? Do we know?
I think it was a mid-level person. I don't think it was anyone big. I don't know, really.
But when you say the police aren't to blame, who is to blame?
Oh, yeah. Well, whoever ordered it is to blame. I'm talking about the rank and file. The whoever ordered it is just an idiot. I mean, this is blown back in their face so much better than I could ever have hoped, and it's been
good.
It's been fantastic over here. I'm getting thumbs up from cabbies. I'm getting lots of little secret smiles from people. It's been wonderful, And they just that's the thing about trans activists. They always overreach,
Yes.
And when they overreach, that's when people start to sit up and take notice.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's because they're crazy. They're crazy. Yeah. They're not able to accurately gauge the situation and weigh risks and rewards. They are delusional. And so they think they're going to get a different outcome than they are. And it's because, in part, of the discussion we had where we rolled over and went to sleep for all those years. And they're used to Americans and English citizens doing that, and people throughout the UK. And we're not doing that anymore. So it's very frustrating to them. And it's leading to their own bad behavior and terrible results. So in a way, you're a sacrificial lamb, Graham, but thank you, because we need that. I mean, easy for me to say, but we do need that. So by the way, you're lucky, because here in the United States, there's a very high likelihood you would have been subjected to a strip search. So let's be glad it doesn't sound like you had to go through that. But were they armed? Normally, they're not armed.
I think that would have been, I think that would have been more punishment for them. If I'd been strip searched, they were armed. But I actually must make it clear. It was very disturbing to see armed police officers, but it is normal for Heathrow officers to be armed.
Okay.
Simply,
but they had one cop per limb, and then an extra for your head to keep your mouth shut. I guess 5 on 1. Truly, like you were some sort of terrorist is how it sounds to me. So they take you to the jail, and then you wound up having heart problem, your blood pressure soared. You were under a lot of stress. You wound up having to get referred for medical help. So this is just further evidence of the level of stress. This does not come without stress for you. It doesn't come without stress for anybody. Honestly, I know a lot of people in media who are very outspoken on a lot of issues, and people who my audience would think don't stress out. They keep coveting controversy. And I am here to tell you, they do stress out. They get stressed. They just refuse to back down. Like there's just a certain kind of person that just says, I don't care. Like I will take it. And that's what you're going through from the sound of it. We do have some video of the arrest. It was posted via The Sun. Let's watch a little bit of it here in SOT 4.
It's alleged that on the 19th of April 2025,
it's alleged that on April 19th.
You posted a post on X that was deemed to be intended to stir up hatred, incite violence on the grounds of sexual orientation. What was the post?
On the grounds of sexual orientation. I can't tell you what the post was, he says.
Comedy writer, Rob Father's head. You idiot. You're under arrest.
You fucking idiot, Graham says.
I'm under arrest. You know what this country looks like to America. I'm going to sue you into the ground. I'm going to sue you into the ground.
I'm going to sue you into the ground.
I'm going to sue you all. I dare you.
Calm down.
I will.
Calm down. There's no need for it. There's no need for it. There's no need for it. Calm down. Yeah. Calm down.
Please let go of me. I'm not going to kick off. You don't me for standing up for women's rights. Don't off me.
Wow. How do you feel when you hear that?
Well, I recorded it. You know, I luckily had the gumption to press record on my favorite transcription app, I only wish the sound had been better and people had heard more of it. You know, but again, when I said I'll sue you all, it would have been very strange for me to sue the 5 cops who picked me up. But I was sort of, I was so angry I couldn't think straight, but I am suing them now. I'm suing the police
For what?
And for wrongful arrest and I think wrongful imprisonment or something like that.
False imprisonment.
And, false imprisonment, excuse me, yes. And this is just going to the brilliant thing is they were trying to silence me, but I think what might have happened is that I'm going to make them very nervous about arresting people for this type of thing in the future.
They picked on the wrong mofo. When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Well, you'd be right. Whether as a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just for sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold. And so they created something special. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit right now. Just text MK to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals of up to 10 grand. So make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy before September 30th. Text MK to the number 989898 to claim your eligibility and get your free info kit. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.